Yeah, we'll settle you in and you guys keep going for it. That sound good? You guys want to stand and we'll worship together?
Your breath in our Father, you are great, Lord, and we praise you for that. Praise you for the opportunity to gather and to hear how you're working all around the world, Lord. Just prepare our hearts for what your Spirit has for us this evening through this time of worship. Father, we give this to you in your name. Amen. Sounds good.
Check. I think this one's. Try the other one? How about this one? A little better? Okay. All right. I'll try to project a little bit anyway here. So I'm Mike Shell, and it's an opportunity that we have to share about our Mexico trip that we took in February. There were 19 of us that made it here from Calvary Chapel, Seneca Falls. And there's the team. There's the team. I went back and looked at the original CD from when I first went, when the church first started going down there. It was 2006. Johnny Sandless was about that big. And boy, a lot of changes from that first time that I was down there. This is the third year in a row that we've been able to take a team from the Christian school and the church here. So pretty cool to be able to do that. Back when Lindsay was a high schooler, like many of you are, I convinced her to come on a short-term mission trip with the church, and that certainly was a turning point in her life, I think, where she's so invested now in the ministry down there, and we've been able to do some of these trips together. Is pretty special as a dad to see that, and then to be able to bring more people down to be involved in the ministry. It's really a privilege to be able to do that, and to be able to do it with my daughter. It's really fun. So the mission was really started an amazing situation with Gary and Terry Mathewson. I mean, here's a guy that was a carpet salesman, and he gets saved, and just gets on fire for the Lord. He quits his job, sells his house, moves to Mexico with his school-age kids to learn the language. I mean, he didn't even know Spanish. Just his story and what they've done over the years in Mexico is just amazing. And it's very humbling, you know. But the Lord is so faithful. We're faithful in small things, and he's faithful in all things. And just really a great opportunity for, I think, people to get some experience and see the world and serve the Lord for a week here. So the children's home is just over the border from El Paso. We'll bring up a map here in a second, but it's not really an orphanage. This is a situation where the kids are coming from very poor environments, homes that maybe can't take care of them. So they come to the children's home to be cared for. They stay there during the week, and then they generally go home on the weekends. They're also starting a Christian school there. They've got a lot right next door that they want to build. They're 1st through 6th right now. Their classes are 1st grade through 6th grade. They try to add a teacher every year, so they'll eventually have a school right there. Now, when we had first started going down there, this place was out in the middle of nowhere, out in the desert. Kind of still is, but over time, the colonias, these little settlements, have been encroaching farther and farther from the city of Juarez out to the desert, and now we're seeing more and more of these houses being built right around where the children's home and the American site is. So you can see the Ciudad Juarez is the city of Juarez, and we're where we are, that's the spot where the children's home is, you know. And years ago, there was some colonias kind of out here, and they kind of keep creeping towards where the children's home is, and they're actually almost surrounding it now. And every year there seems to be more and more building there, which is good. There's more people to minister to. So that's where we went. We flew into El Paso and then crossed the border and pretty much spent the week there in the children's home outside of Juarez. So let me introduce the team to you this year. We had Mike Davis and Gavin Davis. You guys want to stand as I tell you that third-year veterans here again. Preston and Derek Garrettson, where'd they get to? They're right there. Okay. Elena Gauss. Where's Elena? Nadia Gauss. And Nate Leary. Nate's right up front here. Another veteran. Lydia Lubansky, I don't think she could make it this week. And then we had all the Sensenings. So we got Dale and Lori and Kate, Naomi and Lara. So the 5 of the Sensenings. We had Aaron Shives. I don't think Aaron could make it tonight. Noah Showens was supposed to be with us. Noah got sick, and so he's already slated for next year, right, buddy? But so Noah couldn't make it. Isaac Young was with us this year, and Amber Schumacher and Caden Whitcomb were returned. They graduated from the Christian school last year, had gone on the trip with us, and returned as kind of a chaperone kind of role. So they were there, and of course Lindsay and myself. So that's the team. So you don't want to hear me talk. I'd like to hear from everybody that really wants to share about what they got out of Mexico and what the Lord had done with them when they were doing stuff. So we did VBS, we did some construction projects. Of course, we played with the kids and did all kinds of different things. So it was not just a one thing. So hopefully, there we are, arriving at the American site with our bags, and it was a really great week. So who's up first, Mike? Well, I'll just hand this one off. So. Okay.
Nate is going to.
All right. These guys are going to talk about some of the work that we did. Okay.
Is this one on? Check.
You're the best
Check.
at this.
No.
You go first. Me? Yeah. All right. You're a great public speaker.
All right, my name is Isaac Young, and I got the privilege of working on a lot of different projects that went on. And one of the great things about having such a big team that we went with is that I was not involved in probably around half of the projects that we did. And there was just so much work that we got to do and helped all the kids. So, yeah. Oh, and that picture is the dirt crew. And one of the many digging jobs there, I believe we were filling in a pit around a water tank, which will come up next, I think. Nope, never mind. Painting's up. All right. So they did the painting, and these, I believe they were painting door frames in the first one. And then the second one, they are redoing and repainting the stalls on the bathrooms, which they did at the on the Mexican side for the school and the children's home. They took out all the stalls, repainted them, redid them, and I believe that was many of the girls doing that. Yeah, that Mr. Shell and Jeff were the ones who were kind of overseeing that a little bit. They did a great job of that. This was the replacement of the swamp coolers, which were outdated air conditioning systems that they had to go up and take them off, replace them with newer, more updated air conditioners. And that really just helped the kids, helped the buildings, helped the school run. They were able to get their air conditioning and everything. That was Gavin and Mr. Davis did that. This was a fun job. I got to work with Dale Sensenegg on reframing many of the doors that were around the compound. A lot of them had rotting frames and stuff that just needed to be replaced. A couple of the doors needed to be replaced too, and he worked on that. Yeah, this was by far my favorite job. I think Nate can say the same thing. Just digging with the dirt. Digging is a lot of fun, and we got to fill in a couple of those water tanks. So the water tanks are there, right, because the government in Mexico does not allow the drilling of wells. So they have to get trucks to truck in the water and then store it in tanks. And they just put in a new tank to maximize their storage capacity. And we got to fill in the pit so no one would get hurt falling in. Yeah, more filling in the pit. That was about how deep it was, about as tall as Derek is. It was pretty tall. This was another fun job of digging. We were digging the holes that we put the light post poles in for them to put up lights so they could use the soccer court and the playground at night. That hole right there that I am digging had to be about 4 foot deep. At 3 foot down, we hit the leach line sewer field. So we had the fun job of digging through about another foot of all of that fun stuff that was coming out of the pipes and into that hole. That was, yeah, great experience. Yeah, those were the team that welded and put up the light poles, and so the kids could play. That was we did a little ceremony thing that showed the lighting of the poles, and like the looks on the kids' faces when they saw the lights go on and everything. That was just a really great experience, and everyone was so grateful for everything that we did, and it was just, yeah, really cool to see all the reactions. They were so happy for it.
But God definitely gives you the people you need. If you'll notice can you go back, Mike? The fella in the red shirt, Big John, we pretty much got the pole off the ground and he grabbed it with his one hand and stood it up. Definitely want him on your team. And there it is, lit up at night. This was before they brought the kids out. We had to make sure it worked before we did the countdown ceremony, and that was really cool. That was a lot of hard work by everybody. Digging the holes for it through the fun stuff, digging the trench. Derek had a part of that. I think everybody had a part in digging the trench for the wire, but we got it done and got it lit up. So one of the things that I learned about mission work, more than just the actual work, was the importance of it and what it means. When you're there is just so much to do, and there is such a need, and you look around, and you can, as a construction guy, I was in the zone of, I just got to knock out a bunch of work and get this stuff done. But one of the veterans of the trip told me that it's more than just putting your head down and plowing through it. So I took a step back, and instead of working my plan, I decided to wait and see what God put on my heart. And I think it was the next day that you and I, Nate, we wound up working on braces to brace up the wall at the American compound. And Nate asked, can I try welding? And next thing you know, I got him on the ladder doing all the welding. And it worked out great. I think you enjoyed it. I enjoyed teaching you, and it was such a good experience for me because I learned patience, and I learned that it's too big for one person. You know, that's why God calls us there. And it was Pastor Nacho's service that inspired me to come up here, because he said part of mission work is sharing it with others and public speaking, something that I am very afraid of. I'm surprised I'm up here, but I heard what Pastor Nacho said. I'm surprised I heard anything after that service. Their worship team is rocking, but yeah, that's what I came away with, was sharing my knowledge with younger people so that hopefully they can carry on the work. and to talk about it and share it with you guys and maybe inspire more people to do the work, because it is way too big for any one group or person.
All right, you can hit the next one. Yeah. Oh, that's the last one. Thanks for leaving me one, guys.
You just came up?
Yeah. So, as Mr. Derrickson said, he taught me how to weld. That was really nice. I had a lot of fun learning from him, and I really enjoyed being able to help everybody there. So, here you go. Jack. Me? I welded. And yeah, I just said that. What?
What other stuff?
Other? Oh.
You did more than that.
I moved dirt.
He also gave everybody the flu, so that was...
Okay, so now we're going to have Dale and Nadia, and who else is coming up? Just you two guys? Here we go.
Great. Do you want to take the first couple and then I'll take the last two?
Okay, all right, sure. So we got to do what we call dispensas down there, which basically what it was, a bunch of the ladies and maybe a couple of the guys helped too. They bagged up what was it? How many pounds? Rice, beans, and flour. I think it was. Yeah, it's hundreds of pounds of it, but they broke it down in little bags of 2-pound bags. So a 2-pound bag of rice, 2-pound bag of beans, and 2-pound bag of flour. And then periodically, when we had some time, we would go out into the colonia roundabout, and we would take the rice and the beans and the flour along out there, and we would meet people out there in the colonia, and which is the little village out and around, which is basically just a bunch of shacks. And we would, people would come up. It was amazing how friendly the Mexican people are. I don't know if it's just because we're foreigners, but hopefully not. I don't think so. Here in America, I think sometimes we become so entrapped in our own world. We walk down a street, you see somebody else, you don't even wave, you don't talk, you just go about your own business. Down there, you say hi to everybody, and they all want to talk to you. And so it was very easy to be able to talk to these people. They would come out of their house, they would invite us in. We get to talking to them, we ask them if they have any needs. We could pray for them, and they would openly share, and we just spent a little time praying for them, and then we would give them some of the dispensas there that they were giving out. It's a very interesting time. So walking down the streets, that bottom picture down there is kind of a picture of walking down the street, and yeah, some of the places are pretty rough. There's actually a place when we were walking down the street that the power lines were down, and you just had to be careful you don't walk over them. just avoid them. And they were probably down for quite some time already, and just laying there, and hey, still working. So just be careful where you walk when you're out and around there. Other than that, go for it, Nadia.
All right. So as he said, we gather we store all of the rice and the beans and the flour. We sort it all together and we put it in our bags. So, and then we put all of the bags in the car, and there's so many, and we're like, we're gonna have to carry all of these. But it's okay, we're working for God, it doesn't matter. And then we have, we call them hygiene bags too. That's another thing that we can take out to them. And it's just like basic hygiene items. We have like a normal one, we have like some kids ones, and those will have like activity books in them too. So when we're going out, and if we see somebody that could possibly need it, then we're gonna give that to them along with their food. But like he said, everybody out there is just so friendly. You go up to their door, there's people that you've never met before inviting you into their house. And it's crazy because So in America, obviously, we're, like you said, we're so, like, see a stranger in the street, you don't even acknowledge them. And if you do, it's usually in a defensive way, like, don't come near me, don't do that. But you just say hi to everybody. And, like, they're just so friendly. There's some people that'll be like, here, let me give you stuff. And they're like, no, I think you need it. Like, take the food. And they're like, okay, but let me give you things too. Like, they're so nice. Just the way that they respond to it too. And it was just amazing. And my favorite thing about it was getting to pray with them. It depends on the person that you're out with, so there's always somebody speaking Spanish that goes out with you because of a lot of us don't speak Spanish, and if we do, we're not fluent. So your Spanish-speaking person will go talk to the people, and if you have something to say to them or them to you, then they'll translate it. But there's some people that, like, some of our translators don't translate the prayers because that's really something that doesn't need to be translated. Like, you don't need to speak the same language to show the love of Christ, which is really cool. So I think that's all really for the Despensas. So.
Thank you.
It works. So this is I could have talked about, so many of the things, the work. I really enjoyed, digging and all the stuff, Despensas, whatever. But one of the things I got to do that was really unique was I got to help the kids write some letters. And just for some context, the idea of the letters was not a lot. All of these kids are there because someone from most likely the United States is sponsoring them to be there and giving them money so that they can afford whatever it takes to stay or go to school at Le Resplandor. So in return, every, 4 months, 6 months, they have to write letters to these sponsors. And obviously that takes a little bit of work, especially with, first and second graders. If you think about the English that the first and second graders here speak, you can think about the Spanish that the first and second graders there speak. I didn't really think about it, but when you think about a first grader here, maybe they could spell thank you, maybe not. Same thing with the first graders there. Maybe they can spell gracias, maybe not. I saw some interesting spellings and that even we would know. But here's some pictures of them working on their letters. And one of the things that we did with the younger grades was if they were, obviously younger grades and they couldn't spell as well or write as well, you would have them tell you what they want to write down, you would write it down, and oops, I didn't mean to do that. You would write it down, and then they would copy it, and they would make it all pretty with glittery and everything. And so I enjoyed doing that with some of the first graders and the second graders, and then we got to some of the older grades, like 4th and 5th, and there was this one kid I was working with, and I think this had to have been one of my favorite stories, just because of all the things I got to do and learn. I got to this one kid, and he was really struggling with the idea of full sentences. He was 4th or 5th grade. He was in the classroom. But one of the things that Michelle explained to me was some of these kids, even though they're in 4th or 5th grade, have only been going to school for a year or two. So they might only have the knowledge of a 1st or 2nd grader. So really struggling with full sentences. I mean, I told him, hey, what's your favorite sport? Okay, soccer. He wrote down soccer sport. I was like, okay, we could maybe work on that a little bit. So eventually I just went to Michelle. I was like, this kid's really struggling with full sentences. Can you help me out here? And she went over and she was like, maybe it would be easier if he wrote it down on a piece of paper and you copied it. And the look on his face was like, oh, yes, that would be amazing. And so naturally I helped him out, and I spent pretty much the rest of the time that everyone else was making letters helping that one kid. And by the end, we had crafted together an 8 to 10 sentence letter about, saying his name, thank you, and just some stuff about his life. And he went up to his teacher, and Michelle told me later that their teacher is actually pretty picky. It was a substitute teacher, and she went through it, line by line, making sure he'd done everything correctly. And I'm kind of sweating because my Spanish grammar isn't very good, so I'm really hoping I didn't mess up anywhere. But the teacher hands it back to him, just good job. And the look on that kid's face of just utter gratitude and amazement, maybe of my Spanish skills, I don't know. But he was just so amazingly happy about getting to write an 8 to 10 sentence letter to a sponsor that he otherwise probably wouldn't have been able to do so well. And I just really enjoyed that story because it takes together some of my favorite parts of the trip. Not that I didn't love shoveling dirt, but I really enjoyed getting to speak Spanish for the kids and getting to know the kids and hopefully being a good influence on the kids as well. And those 3 things, I think, were, if I had to pick some things, were my absolute favorite parts of Mexico. All 3 trips combined, and that's something that this story, I think, fully encompasses. And so this is just, I had to include this picture because it's funny. This was with like the 1st and 2nd graders, and like I was saying earlier, some of them don't know how to spell very well, so one of them had tried to write their own letter, and I remember reading G-R-U-A-U-S as gracias, and I thought to myself, I guess even the 1st and 2nd graders aren't fluent in their own language, and that's when I learned that small fact, so thank you.
You moved ahead a little bit.
What?
You moved
I know.
ahead.
I thought it was the next person.
Yeah, it is the next person. Elena.
Okay, my name is Elena Gauss, and I guess most of us had the privilege of helping out with the VBS on Monday at the children's home, and then on Tuesday we went to another church and we worked with kids that we didn't even know who they were, and they were all just so friendly. And this picture here, it was me, Lydia, Gavin, and a guy from the other missions trip team who we were in charge of the games. And here we were playing with a parachute, and all of the kids loved it so much. Like, in America, I mean, we played with it as kids in gym class and stuff like that, and we loved it. But here, when we were in Mexico, these kids they were laughing and rolling and laying underneath it. Some kids were jumping on top of it, I don't even know what they were doing. And then, of course, there were a couple kids that were not interested in it, and they kind of just went off and did their own thing, but all of them, every kid was smiling, and it's amazing how much a smile can do. It's one of the things that I figured out in Mexico, was you see somebody smiling, and then you're smiling, and you just can't stop. And, oh, okay. So every home sports game for most of soccer and all of basketball, we did a bake sale where we would sell baked goods, and that money went towards helping pay for anybody who was going to Mexico, or in this case, we bought the parachute, I guess. Can go to the next picture. This was at on Tuesday when we went to the different church and we worked with these kids that we didn't know who they were. Pastor Nacho came and talked, and he did a couple activities that definitely made everybody more comfortable, and like us with them, all this stuff. It was a lot of fun. And this is also, I think, right before we did the skit, which we all worked pretty hard on. It was a lot of fun, but it was also kind of scary. Yeah, I'm not gonna explain that. Is that it? Okay, so our skit, what we did was Noah and the Ark, and when the people did not believe Noah because it hadn't rained for, I don't even remember how long. Okay. And that picture is Gavin explaining to his family that it's going to rain, we need to build an ark. And we were all just looking at him like, okay, you're crazy. It was just really fun because all the kids were like, they don't speak Spanish. They're trying their best, and it was just funny. They were laughing, and I think they enjoyed it. You can go to the next. Kate made all of the costumes, and they were actually really good. I loved my costume. This was at the children's home. People did crafts with the kids. I was not a part of that, so I don't really know what happened, but by the looks of it, all the kids really enjoyed it. At the church that we went to, the games were done in the same room as all the arts and stuff like that, and it was just seeing like some of us people working with these kids. It was like, yes, a lot of us don't speak Spanish, but as my dad says, sports and even crafts is like a universal language, and you can connect in so many different ways with these kids and like grow attached to them, and then it's really hard to leave. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, we went to church service in the city on Sunday, so we had been there a few days by then. I greatly enjoyed the worship time there. True, if I was around that loud of music too much, I might lose more hearing, but there's something, no one can say it's my background, but I just love I just love worshiping with Central American people. Yeah, the drums are really loud. The music is, even on a loud morning here, if somebody is on the drums, doesn't hold a candle to that there. That gives you a little bit of an idea. It is loud, but it just really, I had the opportunity. Pastor Nacho is in the, I think that's him at the pulpit there. Pastor Nacho, that's kind of an easy name to remember. Dale made a mistake one day and called him Taco, and he corrected him. We tried to politely not laugh, but Dale was sincere. It was not on purpose. He did all our translating for us, and he did a great job. But he had asked some of us to come up and give testimonies, if we would, just real short ones. And I had that opportunity. So in the worship, I had already felt it as well. They would sing in Spanish, and then they would do some in English, and a lot of it was in Spanish. But you can sense the spirit in a place. And there was that unity of spirit the Bible talks about. I felt like you knew you were worshiping with Christians. And when I had given a short testimony about when God had showed me that he is, like after my dad died, I kind of felt like, and a lot of you would probably know what I mean, you kind of like they left on you, and how God had showed me that he's that perfect father that'll never leave. Then I had used that in my testimony about how those there, Christians there, if they have put their faith in God, then we will truly see them in heaven one day. Even if I never go back to Mexico, I'll see those Christians again. And there was a lady in the front who was like, of course, I was talking English, and so, there was a translator, and so she was translating it. I mean, the translator was a man, I'm sorry, but there was a lady in the front, so she knew everything I was saying, and she was just agreeing, and it just struck me how we have brothers and sisters in Christ in other countries we've never met. We'll see them in heaven. It's all, we're worshiping the same God. And then, and it was really good. I mean, the sermon then, it was all through a translator. But I think one thing I found out is you cut down on the amount of words you say when it all has to go through a translator. Or when you have to try to say some things in another language, you kind of maybe just try to make the most important words, say them, and then move on. Then, did you have any pictures of outside? Not outside the church, okay. After when we had gone outside and we were hanging around outside, there were 3 young ladies there I saw standing alone, and I went over to talk to them, and then I dragged Naomi over. No, Lydia went with me, and she helped translate. And then I dragged Naomi over, because she knew more Spanish, like, help me out here. And I really appreciated it, that they helped. And we did what we could. Then I used my translator app as well. And about the time we were ready to go, these young ladies were both in their early 20s. I mean, all 3. They went to university where Pastor Nacho teaches, and it was their first time at that church. And I just thought it was ironic how these 3 were standing alone, and God used, it could seem random, American people to talk to them and maybe make them feel welcome, but just be instant in season, out of season. That applies here as well as Mexico, wherever you are. But I'd go to another church service in a heartbeat.
Okay, we've got Derek.
Hi, my name is Derek. This year, my dad and I went on the Mexico trip to Juarez and Chihuahua, and it was definitely a lot of fun. I'm talking about the kids, so. Oh gosh, I had a whole thing planned out. So, the first day we got there, we didn't do a lot. Because it was late, it was like 10 o'clock at night, so we talked about the next day and went to bed. But the next day was the first day there, so I went on the bus with my dad and I'm pretty sure Mrs. Sensening and Kate. Or not Kate, I don't know, but I went on the bus and it was a lot of fun. The kids there on the bus were really nice. There was this one kid on the bus. I don't know if I have a picture of it. How do I work this? Yeah, that kid in the picture on the left, he gave me his coloring book, and he let me color that in it. Obviously, it wasn't the best art, but it was really cool to see that, like, even though they didn't have I don't want to say they didn't have a lot, but they don't have as much as we have. It was really cool to see that they would are willing to share stuff with us. And another day, this one little girl got on the bus, and I had only seen her one other time that on the trip, and she gets on the bus and she just gives me a hug, and I was like, wow. And it's just you never met these kids before, but they're so excited to meet new people, and I thought that was really cool. Oh, I was gonna put another picture in, but I couldn't find it. Of course, I found it at the last minute. But it was the Monday. We left on Wednesday, so it was the day before it was 2 days before we left. We went out to a candy store that day, and I got some candy, and I got a little extra candy and I got to hand out some candy to the kids, and it was really cool because I walked in, and I just saw all of their faces just light up with joy, and they all came running up to me, and I'm pretty sure 2 of the kids came up to me, and one of them said "dos," which means 2, but I didn't realize, and I was thinking, so I said yeah. So, but yeah, and obviously like Elena said it, once you're been there for a week and get to know everybody there, it's really hard to leave. So the last day, we all went into the lunchroom, and we all said our goodbyes, and the kids just like, they were giving everybody hugs, and like it was emotional for a lot of people, myself included. But it's just really cool to see that, like, even though you just met most of these kids, they're like, it feels like you've known them for like a couple months at least, and it's just really cool to see how like grateful they are for what they have.
Okay. So this is mine and Gavin's third time, and each time, like, something different would strike me about the trip. And this one, the thing that struck me was being grateful where we are, and being grateful for what we have and how God has blessed us. And, you know, you could go on a really nice vacation and come back feeling bad for yourself because you don't have what all these other people have, you know what I mean? But you go down there on a missions trip and you see people that built, and actually we've got it, we kind of skipped over it. There was some decorative fence work. And, okay, so you're like, ooh, that's a fancy fence. Looks kind of like a box spring. Maybe a mattress. That's because it was. You know, they're literally building houses out of whatever they can beg, borrow, or steal. You know, that's what they're living in. And I was just in Auburn talking about the homeless situation there, and the people were complaining, you know, because their hotel rooms are small for the homeless people. And I'm like, okay, you know, you do feel bad for them, you know, because that is unfortunate. But then you see something like that, and you're like, you know, they don't have it too bad here in America. And we certainly don't have anything to complain about. None of us do. And when you see that and you gain a new perspective on your own life, you can really appreciate how God has blessed you. So that's the thing that I took away from this trip. And you know, the worship, yeah, it's awesome, and it's great to be a part of something like that. And also, Pastor Nacho, this might be prophetic, he says that everybody's going to be speaking Spanish in heaven, so you might want to get ready. That was his vision. So, yeah. So I think Miss Lindsay is going to talk a little about ways you can support the mission down there. And actually, before she does, I'll say this. There are all kinds of mission opportunities, and you don't have to go to Mexico. You don't have to go to Asheville, which we are going in a month. There's stuff all around you, you know, and helping out in a way like that, helping out somebody that's worse off than you are, will make you feel better. I'll say that as a statement. It will make you feel better. So look for those opportunities. They're all around you.
So before I talk about some ways you can help, just piggybacking off of what Mike said, that's always been something that I've tried to hit whenever we've talked about, you know, the missions trips and what happened while we were there is, you know, that's where the Lord led me. And that's where the Lord led, you know, clearly these other 18 people that went. But the Lord will show you where you're supposed to help out. And the Lord is going to use you in ways you never thought imaginable. I mean, I've been down there. I actually kind of lost track of how many times I've been down there at this point. And I would never, like, maybe out loud say this, but I kind of, like, get in my head that I know what the Lord's going to do when I get down there because I've been there so often. So, of course, like, oh, yeah, we're going to do this on this day, and we're going to do this on this day. And it never really works that way. I don't know why I keep hoping. But you know, I think I know how things are going to go, and the Lord still teaches me something every time, which is pretty cool. I have the privilege of being on staff for Harvest Hands Ministries. I'm one of their ambassadors, and I'm in charge of the student sponsorship program for the ministry. So I recruited Gavin to help me with the sponsorship letters. He did get picked on for not doing enough digging, but he did help me have kids write letters, so you can choose which is more important. Here we have a picture. This is me with Yami Laith. I say she's mine, but I sponsor her as a student. A few years ago, we started sponsoring my class. We started sponsoring a girl named Kimberly, and she ended up having to, for family circumstances, leave the children's home. And so I got Yami Laith, and she really is kind of like, I don't know, a daughter, like little sister. She's just the sweetest. Although I think at this point in my relationship with all the kids, I'm probably going to have to just start sponsoring a different one each, like week or something. I don't know. They're kind of jealous that I have Yami Laith. But so child sponsorship and student sponsorship, those are the two different types of sponsorship that are available. So child sponsorship is the kids that actually live at the ministry down there at the children's home, and they get 3 meals a day. They have clean clothes. They have facilities to shower. They have clean beds. All of that is taken care of them for them, and then they do get to go home on the weekends, which makes this ministry fairly special compared to a lot of others, because these are parents, maybe single moms or single dads, grandparents that want to keep their kids, don't want to put them up for adoption, but they just can't take care of the kids. So this is like a Fill the Gaps ministry, and it's just been such a blessing to this community in Juarez. Student sponsorship is through the school that the children go to now that they started. This is their 2nd year, and they already have 120 kids in 1st through 6th grade, and those are just the ones that don't live at the children's home. So there's about another 25 as well, so that's 145 just in 1st through 6th grade. I think we have 120 in preschool through 12th grade at this school here, just to give you some context. There's also children that go to, because we only have a primary school, they go to a middle school and a high school in the local area. There are Christian schools as well, and they help sponsor students to pay for school supplies, so backpacks, uniforms. You always have to wear a uniform. In Mexico, everything is actually very patriotic and very governmentally controlled. So even like at VBS, not at the ones we do with the Americans, but when we do it down in the ministry, when we do VBS every year, we actually sing the Mexican national anthem every day of VBS. So it is very governmentally organized. And then we also have external students who, through some ways, they could have gone through elementary school and all the way through high school, and some people still want to sponsor them. So we actually do have a sponsorship program for college students too. So there are several different methods of sponsorship available. They do a school supply drive every year. Christmas shoe boxes. It doesn't actually go through Samaritan's Purse because it goes directly to the kids at the children's home, but they are responsible for a lot of different opportunities, and of course mission trips, like the ones we've had the privilege of doing for the past 3 years with kids from the school and from the church, and pretty sure probably going to do another one. Don't think Gavin's going to let it be a senior year and not go again. So I think he's in it for the long haul. So I put prayer up there and a little bit bigger than the other sections, because that's really the biggest thing. We have a lot of staff that don't exactly come from great conditions themselves. And it's a ministry to everybody involved in it, not just the kids. The kids are obviously a main part of it, and why the ministry was started was to reach impoverished kids and families who were struggling, and that was really the heart of the ministry, because Joaquin, who is the principal down there, his wife couldn't have kids. His first wife couldn't have kids, and he felt like the Lord had promised him a kid. And he asked the Lord, I thought you promised me a kid. And Lord's like, well, how many do you want? And he's like, I don't know, 50. And then he was able to start this children's home through the help of Gary and Terry, and he ended up getting remarried and now has 2 kids of his own, and so he named his first son Isaac, which of course is from, Abraham with Isaac and just the fulfillment of God's promise. But just the backgrounds of some of the staff that have escaped horrible situations as well, that I won't get into, of course, but just prayer for the ministry. The Lord definitely is blessing this ministry because it keeps growing. I actually just got a picture from one of my friends the other day that a section that was all these lovely desert shrubs has been cleared, and they're going to start building some more shacks, houses, whatever they can use to build. So the mission field is really coming to West Lindor, to Harvest Hands, and that's just a testimony of God's faithfulness through this ministry. And we're able, we don't even have to go that far. You can literally walk out 100 feet at this point and start witnessing to people and be able to help bless people. So I'm just so thankful that I'm able to be a part of it, and that God allowed this group to be able to come this year. It's been such a blessing. So I think at this point, maybe we'd like to open it up for some questions. I don't have to be the only one to answer.
Yeah, we'll
Check.
And if anybody's got any questions, we'll try to answer them for you here in the last couple minutes.
And
Sure. Yeah.
okay, so the question was, when we were talking about putting in the water tanks, why aren't the people allowed to dig for water? And the answer to that is the Mexican government owns all the mineral rights, including water, underground. So because the government owns those rights, you're not allowed to dig for anything.
So they have to truck water.
So they have to truck water, and you'll be driving along and you'll see just about every place has a concrete wall if they can afford it, and then around the perimeter of their property, and then you'll see a hole, and then it'll be painted agua, and that tells the water truck to put your hose in here and it'll fill the tank. And yeah, so that's just a part of life there. I saw a hand. Elliot. How did we get the big swamp coolers down? You want to take it, Gavin?
Sure. So I'm pretty sure my dad and I invented a new form of work when we did that. We found some ropes, whatever we could find, and got a little pulley, and we attached the pulley to the top of the roof and got the ropes attached to the swamp coolers. And my dad got up on that giant ladder, and I held the rope at the bottom, and he pushed and shoved and tilted and whatever he could do to get that thing off of the stand. And as soon as it dropped, I was in charge of not letting it drop to the ground with the rope and the pulley system. And we had quite the fun time.
You have to mention, I was supervising the safety of this operation, and it was absolutely safe. We were safe distances. We had our safety glasses on.
Safety third.
Yeah. Safety first.
Yeah, we go by a strict rule of safety third in Mexico.
Okay. You do have to improvise quite a bit there, and a lot of improvising has been done on stuff, which leads to our next projects when we go down there. We'll see sketchy electrical stuff and be like, I think I could improve on that. And yeah. Jason.
For somebody that's their first trip down there, who would go back and why should somebody else go?
Okay, so the question for our Facebook friends is, for somebody that it was their first time down there, why would you go again, and why? Okay. And why should somebody else go?
And then Preston, too. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so this was obviously my first year. That's why I'm talking right now. But I would 100% go back, because you're like, whether you think it would be a life-changing experience or not, it really will be if your heart is in it and you're working for the Lord. There's really, like, when you're fully putting your trust in God, there's nothing that would go, like, terrible. Like, you know, like, you're going to get something out of it. Things can go bad, but not terrible, because you will get something out of it. But, like, if you're on the edge of whether you would go or not for different reasons, like for me, I put it off because I don't like to travel and I do not speak Spanish. But like when God's with you, really nothing is a problem like that. And like the Spanish, that's covered and God's got the rest of it. But like if you have the opportunity to go, I would really encourage it because like it really is a life-changing experience and God can work in any way that he chooses to. So you could get really anything out of it, but it's always beneficial towards your walk with Christ.
Like Nadia and Lindsay said, I went there trying to work my plan, and I learned quickly that you have to be patient and wait for God to give you his plan and work that plan. And I feel like I got so much out of it, I almost feel guilty. I feel like I need to go and give a little more. So that's why I want to go back. And you know, like the Davises, I got to be with my son Derek, and we experienced it for the first time together. And I saw him grow in this trip, and it was just so, I got so much out of it. Like I said, I feel like I need to go back and give return a little of what I got.
Awesome. Dale wanted to add to it too.
When we went down there, the first day down there, Lori and I got the opportunity to ride the bus to go pick up some of the kids in the Colonia. And going out in that bus first day and just seeing what these people live in, the shacks they live in, and these kids would come out of the house all cleaned up. I mean, they looked great, and they were happy, and they were excited getting on the bus. They were excited to see us. This one girl, I don't know, maybe 10 years old or something like that, she got on the bus. She had a little tortilla. That was her breakfast. And she was all excited to see us, and she wanted to share her breakfast with Lori. She was tearing off her tortilla to share with Lori. And it's like, you know, it's so hard. It's like you don't want to take what they have, but at the same time, it's rude not to, you know, they're offering, so you share their breakfast. And I tell you what, we in America could really learn a lot of lessons from those people down there on gratefulness and sharing what little bit we have.
Any other questions? Got to have somebody. Oh, Isaac wants to say it. Go ahead.
All right. So for me, I felt God calling me to go to Mexico about 2 years ago at the 30-hour famine. And I made just about every excuse one could possibly make to not go. They were ranging from, it was too expensive, I didn't think I could come up with the money, to I can't speak Spanish, so why would I go, to what would I do there? And then finally I prayed about it, and I was like, you know what, I'll go. And then through a couple different circumstances, it didn't end up working out the first year. And so I went in and I was like, all right, I'm going to go this year. And I went and everything worked out. And I went down there, like Preston said, with my plans. I was like, all right, I'm going to do work. I can't speak Spanish. I'm not going to really help the kids that well. So I'm just going to do the best work I can. And the first day walking down there, we had the opportunity to go with Gary to the hardware store to pick up some tools. But he's like, but first, I want to take a little trip into the kitchen so you can see some of the kids. And we walked into the kitchen, and the kids got so excited, and they came up and they were running up and giving us hugs, people they'd never seen before. And it was just such a great experience. And from that point on, I was able to play with the kids a lot. I was able to actually communicate with them through the little Spanish I know, and I was able to pick up more. And that I realized through anything, God can empower you to do the things that you don't think you can do yourself. And that was why I think other people should go, is because if you don't think you can do it, God will do it through you. And it's a life-changing experience. So, yeah, I would definitely 100% go again without second thought.
Well said. Somebody else? Elliot.
How do you get the hardware, and like what do the hardware stores look like?
Shocker. Elliot Davis wants to know, where do you get hardware and what do the hardware stores look like? Yes. He gets it from his mom. So, yeah, the ones in Juarez, very limited to things that you can get there, and it's the kind of like store we used to have here where you'd walk up to the counter, tell them exactly what you're looking for, and the guy would run down the aisles and go fetch the part and bring it back to the counter. That's the kind of hardware stores they have. And yeah, Gavin says he saw a Harbor Freight there that looked kind of like ours. But yeah, for us, it was like we wanted motion lights for the outside of Lindsay's apartment. And shoot, you can go to Home Depot or Lowe's and there's a whole aisle of them, and you can pick colors and sizes, and and that was just something that we could not find at the local hardware stores there, because like if you have a shack built out of pallets, you don't dress it up with a big motion light that costs more than your house. So yeah.
Who else? Got a Tom. We do feel safe there. We're out away from the city of Juarez, so you wanted to take that?
Is that okay?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. I don't know exactly what others can probably speak more to statistics, but I was afraid as far as going. And the first night I was absolutely positively sure I heard some man out yonder somewhere yelling. The next day someone said it was a donkey braying. I guess I was just scared. But we've been asked multiple times to go to Mexico before by coworkers of his. And really, like, we weren't there many days, and I realized, well, we already witnessed to his Spanish coworkers. It's just a different country. And God truly, like, I can't say I never felt safe, unsafe, but I would feel totally safe going back again. I didn't know how smart it was. I'm like, we're taking young girls. Like, if you look up Juarez on YouTube, it's terrifying. If God calls, go. Yeah.
And we didn't leave young girls out in the middle of the colonial. Okay, kind of clarify that. I mean, safety third is sort of our motto, but we be a little bit heads up on that.
I just want to say that safety first is my priority, but some people don't listen to me.
Okay.
Because I don't have 30 years of experience in roofing, so I obviously don't know about safety. But I get this question a lot because I've gone down more than everybody else. And I think that the Lord just gives you a peace. I know my aunt is terrified. She lives in Texas, and every time I go, she's like, "You're gonna die." And for me, that could happen, but it could also happen driving down the street, and it could happen in Rochester or Lyons or Seneca Falls. Like, you're not guaranteed any day, and as Christians, that's where faith comes in. And if the Lord wants us there, we're going to get there, right? There was things on the news about, there was 3 plane crashes before we went down, and then there was some border stuff before we went down, and, several people were freaking out, like, are you guys still going to go? And I just kept saying, if the Lord wants us down there, we're going to go down there. And that's what it comes down to with safety, I think, anywhere you go. There's a lot of different countries. There's a lot of third world countries. There's worse countries than Mexico. The area we go to could be considered a third world country, even though Mexico itself isn't a third world country. But the area we go to is certainly poor enough. Safety is dogs. In the Colonia, you have dogs to protect your house and your family. Barbed wire. It definitely looks different than safety does in our country, but I have never felt unsafe once in all the times I've been down there, because I just trust that the Lord's going to protect us.
Okay. Wayne. Oh, they'll get scavenged for something, I'm sure. There's some angle iron on them, and there's metal, and I don't know what they're going to end up doing with the old swamp coolers you're talking about. Yeah, they'll do something with that stuff. Nothing goes to waste there. Yeah. That'd be 0. Yep, and I was there to witness that, and we didn't drop anything on Gavin. Jamie.
We were well aware that they will probably reuse them somewhere. Even though these things were probably 30 years old, we knew that they would take them somewhere and somebody would buy them and try to reuse them, so we kept them intact. Yeah.
The question is, how many times did Gavin get pulled up by the
Well, the glorious part of that job was the dead pigeon floating in the pool of water inside the cooler that poured on Gavin and Mike, but they powered right through that.
We're not sharing every detail about Mexico, okay? I mean, some things that happen in Mexico stay in Mexico, Preston. But
I think Laura's got a question. Yep,
Yeah.
Lana. Okay. Yeah. So the question for the feed then was, how do you bring back that culture of the friendliness and the closeness and hugginess and loving attitude that they have?
Yeah, to bring it back to the States.
How do you bring that back to the States?
We'll give that to some of these younger.
So I know for a lot of us, like, you would go up to these kids and they'd smile, give you a hug, all this stuff, and like they were the first ones to do it. Yes, you would smile back and give them a hug back, but they were the first ones to do it. So coming back to America, these kids, like, they might be more shy. So if you're the one who's friendly first, then that makes them more friendly. And I know when I was younger, I was super shy. I still kind of am, not as much, but when like somebody else is friendly, or when somebody else talks to you like they've known you forever, then you're more willing to open up, and it makes talking way easier. So if you're the one who's friendly, then the chances are they're going to be friendly back.
Yeah, honestly, that was one thing that I was wondering while I was still in Mexico. I'm like, this is so much different than it is in America. And how am I going to be able to go back and show the same love that like we showed the kids while we were there, because it's so culturally different. But one thing I noticed is, like, as Elena had said when she was talking about VBS, like, a smile goes such a long way. So like, kids here, you can even just give them a smile, and that shows that you notice them and that you care. Or you can tell them, like, if they're playing a sport or even they're just doing a craft or anything like that, you can just tell them that they did a good job, or ask them if they need help. Like, there's different ways. Like there's always a way that you can be kind to somebody. And, like, even though it's different, like, in Mexico versus America, like, there's always things that you can do, really. So, but, like, the smiling and, like, compliments and things like that is something that I have really found is a good way to carry it over.
I think one of the huge things for me is it kind of shocks you when you get there because of how much friendlier they are. But it really shows in little things, how they have, just so little, and yet they share everything with each other. Like that little girl that shared her tortilla with Mrs. Sensening on the bus, who had, literally a tortilla for breakfast, but she was like, oh my gosh, American, I would love to share some of this with you. And I think that's a huge thing for me coming back, thinking about all the little things that you can do to make someone's day, whether it's a smile, whether it's a, instead of a sure, of course, why not, It really does go further than you think. And I think that the reason missions teams I've seen work so well together, regardless of who's there, is their mindset is not so much, especially as we get further on in the week, to please themselves or to do the most work possible. It's to make a great impact and on each other and on the kids and on the work they're doing. But of course, on each other and the kids come before the work, which I think is huge. And I think one of the biggest things is coming back to this school afterwards, if we were able to make an impact on kids that don't even speak the same language, that are 10 years, 5 years, whatever, younger than us, why not with the kids that are going here? And I can say personally, and I've seen it in a lot of other people, that making bonds with the kids here at school that are like 5 or 10, or even just kids that are a few years younger than you, you know, the impact that that can have. I remember looking as a younger kid, seeing an older kid being like, he just gave me a high five. Oh my gosh, it's so cool. And now, you know, it's so effortless to give a high five to a younger kid, but I know from experience it means a lot. So.
Yes.
Did you have contact with teenagers, young adults, college and career-age kids, anything like that?
So the question was, did we have contact with teenagers and college-age students while we were down there? And yeah, there's some.
I know there are some teenagers that go to the children's home and they go to a school separately. So obviously if they're older than 6th grade, they can't go to the school there. So I know that some of them go off to school and then they come back afterwards. So I got to know a few of them. College age?
Well, Antonio and his sister.
Yeah, they're like, yeah. And then there's some that live there because like their dad or their mom, you know, work for La Splendor. So some of them like live there permanently. So Antonio, I think, is like, it's like my age, 15, 17, 17. And so he's older than me. And then, yeah, so there are some older kids, but I think most of them would be on the younger side.
And Red?
Is there any kids that were sincere about coming to see you as when they become adults, come back to the state to see this church or anything like that?
To try to come here? Okay, so the question was there any kids that you met down there that were sincere and about wanting to come here to visit and when they become adults? And that one, we talked with Gary about the visa thing. Do you want to speak about?
I know when Gavin and I did letters with at least the 5th and 6th graders, one of the questions I asked the kids to talk to their sponsors about are, what do you want to do when you grow up? And there were several of the kids in the letters that said, you know, I'd really like to meet you in person, because not all the people who sponsor kids actually get down there. It's actually kind of rare for the sponsors to be able to get down there. They want to help in some way, but not everybody can just go up to Mexico 3 times a year. Not everybody can do that. So there were a lot of desires to be able to visit the U.S. or to be able to visit the sponsors, but there's definitely a lot more of, I hope you can come visit us, because it's a lot more common for Americans to come visit the compound because the ministry is set up the way it is. A lot of people do want to come to the States, but it's kind of like a distant dream, and it costs a lot of money, and it's quite difficult to be able to actually do that in a legal way, especially. So definitely more that they would like us to visit them more.
Several that asked if I was coming back.
Oh, and yeah, they're always asking if people are coming back. So, and when I go down without, you know, the team and the kids, they're like, when's Gavin coming back? Is Nate coming back? Amber? Like every time I go down, they're like, where are your other people? I'm like, okay. So they do look forward to the different teams, and they do remember you very well. There's a team I went with 3 years ago, and they still ask me about a couple of the girls on the team, and I was like, I really don't talk to them, I'm sorry. But they do remember names, and it really does impact a lot that you go down there. These kids are starved for attention and affection, and so it really does impact them when you go down there. Please.
So, question for the kids. What are some of the struggles and challenges that you faced going down there?
So at least for me, one of the biggest struggles is communication, because the kids there, they don't speak perfect Spanish. And it's for me it's hard to understand perfect Spanish, and not to mention kids who speak fast, they speak quietly, like it's really hard to pick up what they say, so I had to ask a lot of them to like keep repeating a couple of times, and so that was definitely a struggle. You know, it's not always easy to understand, even like kids in our country, like little kids, you kind of have to like get them to talk more, and so that was a struggle. It's with such a big team too. I know this was a personal problem. I didn't always get along great with everyone on the team. I know I did a lot better than I probably would have with God's help. I did a lot better than I would have without Him. But it's a little hard to stay on the good sides of 18 different people for a week. But yeah, with God's help, you definitely can do that. So that was personally just the two biggest issues I had were understanding and being able to communicate with the kids and getting along perfectly with the team the whole time. But those with God, you can just do that easily.
All right, sorry about this. My knee really hurts, so I'm going to stand here a little funny. But another big thing about when you're down there, something you got to be aware of before you go down there, their showers down there are not like showers we have up here, okay? I don't know if anybody told you this yet. Military showers, I'm telling you, first thing you want to do when you get home, take a long shower, bro. It is wowza. It is, yeah. You're stuck with people, like Isaac said, you're stuck with people, a lot of people for a very long time, and I have been told by Isaac, I'm an acquired taste, so when you go down there, just make sure you know that you're able to get along with people pretty well, that you're open to having plans change last minute. If you're somebody who's really by like a schedule, like I am, if I think something's going on and it gets switched, I hate that. I like to know what's happening, but that did happen a bit. But you know, you just gotta learn to go with the role, prepare to use a lot of deodorant and perfume, and maybe use it on a couple of your team members when they're not looking to. So, just be ready for that and being stuck with people, and getting along with everybody. So anyway.
For me, besides being able to relate to everyone else, make sure everyone on your team that is going is 100% healthy. Because for me, thank you, Nate and Elena, for making me sick and having to skip the last 2 days of it because I was really sick. So I came back with a very high fever, and yeah, I got influenza A from you all.
It wasn't fun for us either.
But yeah, so that was a struggle, having to miss the kids' presentation for us and the last night and saying goodbye to everybody.
I think Nate just had a cough. Yeah. Small cough.
Any other questions?
Missy? So Missy saw the Valentine's Day pictures. They celebrated Valentine's Day there, and she wants to know from the kids if they would like to talk about that.
Actually, that just made me think of a really cool story. It's really short, but some of the kids, the idea was that all of their parents would get to come out and they would do the activities with their parents, but not every kid's parents could make it. So some of us Americans had to get paired with a kid who didn't have their parents come. And I was paired with this younger girl, and she was not as enthusiastic as most of them about playing the games, and I was kind of like, what's up with this girl? I mean, she's a little, not so happy. And then she starts talking to me, and she's talking really fast. So I'm like, okay, slow down. And eventually I gathered her mom had just showed up, and that would explain, the brightening of her expression and the excitedness. And she's like, can I go be with my mom, and I can do this with my mom? And I'm like, absolutely, let's go find her. And so we went and we got her mom, and the joy that you could see, on her face that she got to be with her mom and do these activities. Sometimes you don't see that in the States. In fact, sometimes you see the opposite, where it's like, oh, Mom, don't embarrass me. But they really did show pure joy when their parents got to come and they got to do these activities with their parents. So that's one thing I had to tell.
I have a very similar story to that. There was this one girl that was with Mrs. Sensenig, and right before the game started, I looked over, and she was pretty happy with Mrs. Sensenig, and then this woman came over, and the little girl just started crying. She was so happy, and we found out that it was her mom, of course, and just seeing how happy she was amazing because these kids were able to do all these activities and hang out with their parents when, like, they don't normally get to do that at this specific place.
Yeah, in case you have no idea what we're talking about, too, the Valentine's Day thing that we're talking about is, so at the school, I think they called it, what do they call it, Love and Friendship Day? Yeah, they called it Love and Friendship Day. So basically you all get together, and they decorated the whole place, and it was amazing. So you get together in, like, the main area outside, like, under the pavilion. And, like, we played a ton of games with the kids. Like they said, if their parent, it was an event that their parents could come to, and if their parents couldn't make it, then one of us got to, like, be with the kid for the day and act as their parent. But they had, like, photo booths, and they had food, and they had a mechanical bull, which was really fun, but yeah, scary for Gavin apparently. But yeah, we just played a bunch of games with them, and it was great to be able to bond with the kids like that and see how much fun they were having. And even if you weren't like I know personally, I got to go, like after most of the games, I got to go with the kid that I was looking after, and I got to go with her on the playground, even though I didn't understand her much, and I had to have Laura translate for me. But even though we could not talk at all, I'm helping her on the playground, and then you gotta kind of like improvise, and I'm like, she gets on the swing, and I'm like, does she want me to push her, or does she want me to swing next to her? So I'm going, and then she's like, oh, and I'm like, okay, she wants me to push her. So yeah, it was a great time with everybody, and it was a fun experience, I think, for everyone too.
Yeah, so I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lindsay, but so the focus on Valentine's Day there is more of, from what I gathered, like the love of a family and the bond between friends of a friendship, and not the way we celebrate it here. And that was honestly like quite a nice refresher for me of like being like celebrating family and celebrating friendship over the way we do it. And just the Central American celebrations are just a whole nother thing. The food is great, and the music's loud. They had, like Nadia said, a mechanical bull there, which I've never seen at a Valentine's Day thing here. Like the kids would run up to you and ask you to come play sports with them. Like I was constantly playing soccer with the kids, and it wasn't just the kid that you were with for the day too. Like all their friends would come and want you to play with them, and they didn't care who you were. They just saw, and you're like, oh, let's get a soccer team together and let's play a game, or well, let's go play in the playground together, or whatever they wanted to do. And it was just a great like bonding time between people who had no connections before, but through this event together, where I was able to get connected with some kids that I had no relationship with, and now that we have some sort of a bond together.
Laura is not talking tonight, but I think it's probably partly because, like on a day like that with the Valentine's thing, she did so much translating. She's probably, went over her quota for us, because some of us were yanking her to, okay, come over here. And with the children there, with the mechanical bull, the things you will do for children, 2 of these girls insisted, you are going with this girl on the mechanical bull. I was 2 days or whatever from my 47th birthday. I thought I was going to totally put something out of place, but I came off and I could still walk, so all is good. The things you do for kids.
And I did try and marry Gavin off there. They had a little thing there. He did not go down with that, sadly, but okay. Also, another thing they did there was they took photos, and I think I spent about an hour in the photo booth at one point with little girls and their mothers coming up to me, asking me to take photos with them. I was so tired by the end of that. I kind of just ran out of there when I saw a moment, but they do like taking photos with you, and they love it when the moms especially loved it when you spent time with their kids. When you took the time to like talk to them and stuff over that day, it was really nice. The kids were really great too.
Any other questions? We're just about a little bit over, so we could wrap it up here. But we can hang around if you want to talk one-on-one. Yeah, there was another question in the back? Oh, yeah, go ahead. We took a few tools, we took a few supplies, we took stuff for like some VBS stuff. We also just hit a Walmart in El Paso and buy stuff and then bring some stuff across the border. But as far as what kind of supplies do you mean? Question is, can you bring supplies with you when you go to visit? Electrical, wire, stuff like that. Usually we wouldn't bring a lot of supplies like that. We would bring it across the border. You know, we maybe buy it in the States and then bring it across. Some things you can buy over there, but it's like Mike was saying, the hardware stores are kind of less than what we're used to. But, yep, we got to wrap it up. So we'll hang around if you want to talk a little bit. So you want to close? Cool. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. In closing here, there was a couple questions that were asked. One about, the danger in Mexico, and then also how do you bring that culture back to America? And I'd just like to say, I think here in America, we have a lot of fear. Really, we're afraid of each other a lot of times. Like Lori talked about, she was afraid to go to Mexico. I think the big problem is a lot of the news media and stuff like that we feed on. Lori, I know here a while back we had a discussion, and it just seems like the crime rate, even in America, is so prevalent. It's all the time, And, I stopped her and I said, really, if you study the statistics, the crime rate was a whole lot higher in the 70s when we were growing up than it is today. Crime rate has actually gone down. But the problem is we hear about it, and it's so much more prevalent. And I think it's a lot of times the things that we're feeding on, and maybe social media and stuff like that, and we get our little clicks and whatever else have you. And I think it's time to, just get rid of the fear. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but a power, love, and a sound mind. And you can overcome that fear. And with Christ with you, who can be against you? Who can stop you? Don't let it shut you down. Anyhow, so thank you all for coming out here. Bless you all for going along with us to Mexico, and thanks for dragging us along, me along. And sorry if I gave you a heart attack a few times, Lindsay, but we all survived. It's all good. It's all good.
So we'll just close.
Let's just close in prayer. Gracious Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you so much for the opportunity to go to Mexico and just to share with the people down there, and even more, what the people down there shared with us. Lord, I just pray that we would hang on to that, Lord, and that we could share that in our communities and round about us, Lord. I pray that, God, you would just help us to rise above our fears and our clickiness here in America, and just take the gospel message of love, joy, and peace into the world around about us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Okay, we're dismissed. If anybody wants to come up, talk to us, we'll